Welcome to the tutorial on business communication. Today the chapter is types of communication. Communication can be classified considering various aspects. We can see if we consider area of operation, then there are two types of communication. First one is internal communication and second one is external communication. And if we consider the relationship between the sender and receiver, then there are two types of communication: formal communication and the next one is informal communication. If we consider the direction of message, then there are three types of communication: vertical communication, horizontal communication, diagonal communication. If we consider means or ways of communication, there are three types of communication: oral communication, written communication, gestural communication or non-verbal communication. What is internal communication? Internal communication takes place within the organization. That means communication which takes place in an organization, inside the organization, that is called internal communication. And this internal communication may be formal, informal, oral, written, and it may be upward, downward or horizontal. So any communication that takes place within the organization, that is called internal communication. Here we can see there is a diagram of internal communication. The board of directors, department managers, it may be finance manager, purchase manager, sales manager, and the workers, staff, officers. They are the stakeholder of a company. If any communication takes place between or among them, then that type of communication is called internal communication. Internal communication may take place downward, upward or lateral. We can see the methods of internal communication. We can use various methods. If we use oral or written communication, then the methods of oral communication may be face-to-face discussion, verbal instruction, message, telephone, intercom, meeting, conference or seminar, speech, others. On the other hand, if we follow written communication method, then it may be notice, circular, memo, report, chart or graph, bulletin, email, fax and others. What is external communication? In external communication, the message flows outward. That means internal communication takes place with the people outside the organization. It may be the customers, suppliers, investors, other business house, banks, insurance companies, government office, etc. Government office may be taxing authority, regulatory agencies, stock exchanges, Securities and Exchange Commission, etc. These are the methods of external communication. If we use oral method, then it may be face-to-face discussion, meeting, conference or seminar, telephone, speech or others. On the other hand, if we adopt the ways of written communication, then it may be notice, letter, telegram, report, chart or graph, email, brochure or leaflet, advertisement, invitation, fax, press release and others. What is formal communication? If any organization has a formal structure, I mean in an organization, if you need to maintain a strict relationship between the superior and subordinate, and if there is no flexibility, that means you are bound to maintain the formality, and if there is a well-defined hierarchical pattern and periodicity, then you have to maintain formal relationship. In that case, you have to communicate by maintaining the formality, and that is called formal communication. We can see it's a formal communication structure. The board of directors, after that managing director, after that various managers, purchase managers, production manager, marketing manager, and after that supervisor, foreman and the workers. In this formal structure, if the worker need to send message, then he or she should inform the foreman, and foreman will inform the supervisor, supervisor will inform the manager, and manager will inform the managing director, and managing director will inform the board of director. And if the board of director needs to send any message, then he or she will also follow this structure. That's why there is a formality in sending or receiving communication. That's why it is called formal communication. What is informal communication? When any organization don't have any formality, then informal communication takes place. In a informal communication, you don't need to maintain any formal relationship. Informal communication does not follow any structural route or process. It may move any direction, and informal communication is direct, spontaneous, flexible, unplanned, and fast-flowing. To maintain a good relationship among the employees or the stakeholders of a company, informal communication plays a great role. And this informal communication takes place in a unstructured manner, and that type of communication works well in a smaller, loosely knit organization. What is vertical communication? Vertical communication flows upward or downward. That means the message can be sent from the higher authority to the subordinates, and on the vice versa, the message can be sent from the subordinates to the higher authority. And this is a diagram to depict the vertical communication. It may be downward or it may be upward. Downward communication, message flows to the subordinates from the superior, and in upward communication, message flows from the subordinates to the superior. What is downward communication? When the communication moves from top to bottom. That type of message travels through the senior executives to the junior level functionaries. As for example, whenever you need to communicate the corporate goals, corporate policies, motivational letters, work related instructions, newsletters, letters from the CEO or general managers, then downward communication is used. This is a diagram to depict the downward communication. The message is forwarding from the manager to the staff. What is upward communication? In upward communication, the message travels upward. That means the message travels from the bottom to top levels. Upward communication moves from the subordinates to the superior managers. As for example, we can say whenever the subordinate employees send report, suggestion, opinion, attitudes, complaints, grievances, then those messages or those communication can be considered as upward communication. That upward communication flows from the branch to regional office to zonal office, zonal office to head office. This is a diagram of upward communication. Workers are sending the message to supervisor, supervisor sends the message to manager, and manager sends to the upper level manager. What is horizontal communication? Horizontal communication is also known as sideways communication or lateral communication. That type of communication takes place between the same level employee or same level managers. There is no hierarchical levels or position. In the horizontal communication, the message or information or instruction sent to the branch manager to the other branch manager, employee to employee, managers to managers. There is a diagram of horizontal communication whenever the communication takes place between the same level people. Here we can see the manager, purchase manager, production manager, quality control manager, sales manager. So they are the managers. Any communication takes place between these managers is called horizontal communication. And not only manager, it may be employee to employee, it may be boss to boss, or it may be supervisor to supervisor. What is diagonal communication? Diagonal communication takes place among the executives or employees of different departments. It may be upward, downward, or horizontal. It may be oral, written, it may be formal or informal. A good relation between the subordinates and superior is built up by diagonal communication. It is very useful in solving the problems and avoiding conflicts between the departments. But there is a chance of spreading rumors by this diagonal communication. This is the diagram of diagonal communication. Here we can see this person can send message to other department boss, this person can send message to other department employee, this person can send message to the upper level boss. It goes any direction, upward, downward, angle, and it doesn't follow any formalities. It may be oral, written, whatever be the format, diagonal communication takes place. What is verbal communication? Verbal communication is also known as oral communication, and in oral communication the message is transferred through spoken words. It may be face-to-face or it may be using any speaking instrument like telephone. What are the advantages of verbal communication? Verbal communication saves time and permits personal contact. It fosters a friendly and cooperative spirit. It ensures quick understanding and proper explanation. It encourages questions and answers. It stimulates interest. And in verbal communication, the speaker can know the reaction of the listener. And verbal communication is suitable for confidential and emergent talks. What are the disadvantages of verbal communication? Verbal communication is not suitable if the distance between the speaker and the listener is too long, if the message is lengthy, and if you need to send a message to many persons, then verbal communication is not suitable. And verbal communication lacks recorded evidence and it cannot be used for future reference. Verbal communication does not allow the listener much time to think, act, and react. What is written communication? Written communication takes place by sending messages in writing format. You can send email, letters, circulars, reports, telegrams, memos, bulletins, instant messages, etc. What are the advantages of written communication? Written communication is a formal method of communication and it is suitable for long distance between the sender and receiver. And written communication creates the records of evidence and it can be used for future reference. And written communication can be sent to many persons at a single time. And written communication gives the receiver sufficient time to think, act, and react. What are the disadvantages of written communication? Written communication is time-consuming and expensive. Sometimes it cannot maintain secrecy. Written communication offers difficulty in explaining all matters, and there is no chance of clarification. And written communication is less flexible, and written communication cannot be effective in emergency moment. What is gestural communication? This gestural communication is also known as non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication plays a significant role whenever you are sending message by verbal message. Non-verbal communication strengthens a verbal message when the non-verbal signals match the spoken words, and non-verbal communication weakens a verbal message when non-verbal signals don't match the words, and non-verbal communication replaces words entirely. As for example, we can say, you might tell a client that a project is coming along nicely, but your forced smile and nervous glances will send an entirely different message. That means in verbal communication, non-verbal action can strengthen or weaken or replace your words. That's why non-verbal communication is very sensitive. Gestural or non-verbal communication is made through body language. It may be facial expression, smile, crying, etc. It may be tone of your voice. You can use sign. You can use touch. It may be handshake or hug, rubbing of hands, eye-to-eye contact, style of walking, standing or sitting. It may be gestures, movements of our arms, legs, hands, torsos, heads. Physical appearance. It may be clothing style, hairstyle and other accessories you belongs. It may be space between the sender, receiver or speaker or listener. That means the physical contact or distance. It may be time orientations. That means your sincerity in maintaining schedule, or whenever you respond to the sender or receiver, is it timely or do you delay? And the last one is paralanguage. Paralanguage means the speed, pitch or volume or connectivity of spoken words. In our day-to-day life, most of the communication takes place using non-verbal communication. That's why as a sender or receiver, you have to be cautious using that type of ways, body language, tone of your voice, sign, touch, rubbing, eye-to-eye contact, style of walking, standing, sitting, gesture, physical appearance, space, time orientation for language. That's why it would be wise if you became aware whenever you are sending message verbally. You have to be conscious about your non-verbal or gestural situations. Up to now, we have learned various types of method or ways or direction or classification of communication. Different methods may be used in combination to suit the purpose. That means which method or which communication will be used, that depends on the purpose or situation. Thank you.